All right, welcome back to the Rush Hour podcast. I'm your host, Frazier Smith, and I'm here with my co-host.
What's up, guys? I'm Sizzle, Eric, Shen, Sackface, whatever you want to call me.
Yep. And this is the 15-minute podcast where we talk about various Yu-Gi-Oh topics. So today, we're going to be talking about Solemn Judgment, and I'm going to start the timer now. But yeah, how do you feel about Solemn Judgment, Eric? Because I know that you're one of the people that defended it being played when people were talking about taking it out.
Yeah, it's obviously a very debated card, and I don't think it's like crazy good, but I do think it's one of the best cards you can, or traps you can put in going first, because you don't know what you're going to always play against, and it literally stops anything. So how can it not be good, like game one at least?
I like that logic. You know what? I remember when Dimitri, he won Format Library's Edison World Championship last year with Value Turbo playing Icarus Attack and Legacy Yada and no Solemn Judgment. And he's a person that just does not play Solemn Judgment in pretty much any of his decks. I think that when he got like top 8 with the Blackwing deck with no Icarus attacks, he also didn't play Solemn in that deck either. And he's a staunch defender of no Solemn because he feels like if that Solemn was a different trap card or a different type of interaction card in that place, it would just be better overall. Which at first I was staunchly like, I don't know about this take because I was young in Edison format and, you know, I'm still learning to this day, but I didn't know about that take. And now the more I play Edison format and the more I have Solemn, I started looking at the card sideways because I do see his point of like people activating it wrong, which is not really a fault of the card. It's, you know, like, what do you think about that? Like, do you think it scales with the player is kind of...
It definitely scales with the player, like 100%. I think, though, there is a little propaganda about, like, if you're, like, bad at all with it, it's just bad. Because it can definitely be bad even in a good player's hand. Like, if you open it, I hate opening it.
Me too.
Like, that's the worst thing about Solemn, it's opening it. You never want to pay 4K. That's pretty bad. Almost never worth it.
I think the worst thing is the Gore Solemn thing. I hate that. That is probably my biggest gripe with Solemn Judgment is Solemn Judgment and Gores are just at odds with each other. And I draw them together all the time, or I draw the Gores after I set the Solemn, which is worse.
Yeah, I mean, that you draw the... Oh, yeah. That's really bad. But
happens
like
all
the
the
fact
time,
that you
bro.
lose half your life too, like you're like, oh, I have the Solemn set, I have to activate it to get off the field to drop Gores, but now I'm at like 2k life. So can I even drop Gores because they might just kill me? Yeah, that's really bad. Going off the Dimitri thing though, he also he's a big advocate of card activity, like because if you open Solemn, you can't just set it nilly-willy.
Yeah.
A lot of people will just set it just because they're like, oh, like I can negate heavy when you don't always necessarily want to negate heavy. That's really bad paying 4K. But yeah, he just values card activity, like setting. This goes back to the Yada, I guess, but like setting
I was waiting.
two cards in the back row, and you essentially have a Yada that's either hopefully going to bait something in, but if not, it just does its job and replace itself. So I do see the argument, but I still think, in my opinion, it's too good game one. But because of what Dimitri said and all this Solemn debate, I do side it out more often than I used to, though I will say that.
What matchup do you see yourself siding out Solemn Judgment? Because I think Value and Blackwings are the two main ones that I sided out.
Yeah, like I know like a lot of people don't like doing that because some people just love Solemn, but yes, Blackwing and Hero Beat because I value life points a lot, so it's kind of hard for me to justify paying life. And then Value is debatable, but you can't stop Armed Wing or like a value effect with Solemn, so that kind of sucks.
Yeah, and if you are at 4,000, so let's say you do have to Solemn something. If you're at 4,000, Value can just actually win, like from that point.
Yeah.
So that's scary to me.
But the thing is, siding with it, like you have to always think like, okay, is this card actually like, do I have a better card than Solemn in my side deck? But also going first, I think Solemn is 10 times better.
Yeah.
Because you can, negating their stop, like their trap to stop your play is 10 times better than like using Solemn to stop one of their plays.
So that's a good point you brought up. Solemn can be used in multiple ways. One of them is offensive and the other is defensive. So some people get caught using Solemn to like defend from a heavy storm, right? And that's where it's kind of not the best because at that point, I'd rather just be Legacy Yatagarasu, going back to that point as well. And when you use it to push your play through, usually that play is a vital one. You know what I mean? Like it's something crazy that you're doing. I'm summoning Jaizaris to pop 2, or I'm going Blackwing, normal summoning you in bottoms. I'm like, nope, Solemn, I'm pushing the Destroyer through. I'm getting the search. I'm going to get my Gale Kalut. And those are when Solemn are just like crazy. It's a crazy card when you're pushing your play through. I'm summoning Dark Arm unopposed or whatever. I also think Solemn's fantastic when you are in certain defensive situations like against Frogs or any kind of Monarch deck. When you just negate a Caius, like they tribute for Caius, That's a great thing to have. Game one, you have a pulling the rug in your deck in a way, right? Like if you have tempo already, that could be the end of the game. Like I've lost to a true hero when he's playing Diva Hero last year. We would play test sometimes, and I remember some of the games that I would lose to that deck, because I do think that Frogs beats it, but some of the games that I would lose would be where he went first and he would open up kind of strong. You know how Diva Hero is. It would be like Future Fusion, Summon Diva, make Stardust, set some back row, go, and I'll go draw, and I'm like special in front of Prodigy, tribute for Caius. He's like Solemn Judgment, and I'm just like, well, pass with an open field.
Yup, and you could literally be dead next turn. Yeah, it's good when it's really good in that situation where you have like a break my board kind of scenario, and Solemn is obviously just the best card you can have behind you. So yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. It's awkward to me with Raikou decks, honestly. Like, I'm starting to like the Steven approach. You know, Steven, who topped Raleigh and Indy, where he doesn't play Solemn. He just kind of plays the Yadas. Because, when you flip Raikou, sometimes you have to flip Raikou because you need the value of popping their card. You want to get the +1. You don't want to just sit there to get Caius or something worse happen to it later. So you flip your Raikou. But when you have Solemn, like Raikou and Solemn is an awkward thing too. When Raikou's just chilling in attack mode for that one turn, it can be like very awkward just have that Raikou. Like I feel it when I played Machina Control recently, and there were multiple situations where I'm like, dang, I actually have a Solemn behind this Raikou. And for this one turn, I'm a little nervous that I don't want to have to Solemn something, but then that kind of makes me like, why do you have the card at that point anyway? Like, I just wish it was something else. Going back to the point of like, if it were just a different card, like Compulse or something, it would be a lot better for me. So I think that going forward, I'm going to be trying a lot more non-Solemn. When I don't play Frogs anyway, I'll be trying a lot more non-Solemn, deck lists instead of the ones that play it.
Yeah, like you said, it's almost never the best card for any given scenario. There's normally a better card that it could have been, but Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't work that way. You can't just pick what card you want. So I still think decent, but yeah, like, dude, I was gonna say it's really, really good against decks like Dragon Turbo, Amaryllis, Lightsworn, like Solar Recharge, Destiny Draw. Those you saw. People don't do that enough, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think it's actually worth paying 4,000 almost. Like if they do that turn one, like especially against Lightsworn, if they go recharge, pitch, I'm like, I'm gonna solve this. Like,
I think you do it every time. I'm not even joking. I think that where we are in the format right now, Edison 2024, the format is so much faster than it was 2 years ago when I first started it. I think that right now, if I have Solemn set and you go trade in Blue Eyes or Solar Recharge, discard Lila, or trade in, discard Amaryllis, I am Soloming that shit. Now, Amaryllis that's the sketchy one.
Yeah.
That's the one where you better be winning really quickly because it could go south really fast, and I might be less inclined to do it if they discard Titanium just because of Miracle Fertilizer, but it also depends on hands, right? Everything we say, there are no absolutes. Everything depends on like the context, right? So we're not saying always Solemn in every situation that they play a draw card that discards a card to do it, but that +1 and them just kind of like going down to 4 cards immediately, and you went first, so you're already like that pseudo +1 that you got for going first. I've won games in the past by doing that. Like that has one, and I'm sure you have too, because you seem adamant about it as well.
I mean, it's not a pseudo +1, it's just straight up a +1.
Yeah.
And like that deck, those decks tend to brick if you stop their first like Destiny Draw card. So
yeah. A question for you. Have you ever in a value mirror match, or like you don't even know if it's value mirror match technically, but let's say you go second and they set a monster and they like set a back row pad. They T-set, very regular open, and they T-set, and your play, you have Raikou and Solemn. Have you ever just set Raikou and Solemn, and when you said I'm going to Solemn their Raikou when they flip it? Like, have you ever just been like, I'm Soloming it and take it? Because in a way, the reason why I'm saying this is because you steal going first when you do that, in a way, right? Like they now they're in a situation you were in turn one where they have the deal with your Raikou set first, kind of.
No, that is so ass. I'm not doing that, dude. Paying 4,000 to stop a Raikou, whatever, and then they could just summon Vayu and just like, no, that's so bad. I'm probably just not setting Solemn if that's my only play.
Yeah,
I'll probably just set Raikou and to be like, I'm just gonna take it up the butt for a bit and then set Solemn after and then pay less life.
You are so funny. Yeah. So yeah, I have done that, despite the fact that it is not. Listen, bro, I've done it, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I've had success doing that in games, like in singular games, where I will set a monster and set Solemn and say, if that is Raikou, I am Soloming it, and I'm going to see what happens. Because one of the things I do when it's not tournament is that I like to see what happens if I do this obscure play, right? So if I'm playing like a small tournament, something that's not a major, no Deck Devastators, RBET, EWCQ, or Ultimate Time Wizard. Like I don't know if I would do this in those tournaments tournaments per se. It really depends on my hand, of course. But like if I'm just playing around and I'm testing against someone, I'll definitely try to Solemn their Raiko going second to see if I can again steal going first. And it has worked. Like it's worked before. I'm not saying it's gonna work every time, but it definitely has worked before. Where it's like, damn, now they know my set monster is something I wanted to protect, right? Like obviously I wanted to protect it if I stopped that. So it could make things awkward. But Solemn is a monstrous card. I have such good experiences with it from Teledad format where it was at 3, and now we're in Edison. It's at 1. And I remember when it first got talked about when Dimitri didn't play it, and it was a big discussion in all the channels. And I remember you saying something like, "I feel like with this card, I just win." Like, I feel like the better play, if you're better than your opponent. Yeah. I remember I almost could like bring up the screenshot on Discord of you saying that.
Oh, like, I said it in the deck profile you did with me, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's true though. Like if you have to be like noticeably better. It can't just be like you're just a little better where it might not matter.
Yeah.
But if you're like noticeably better and you can navigate where the game is headed, it feels unlosable because you know like you're gonna stop X play and just win the turn after or that turn. Like I remember I was playing against the best scenario I had was at Raleigh when I was playing against a GB guy, and I knew he was gonna go Guy's Eris, and I knew I was gonna stop it, and I knew I was just gonna Solemn his back row and win the next turn. Like it's very easy to navigate, I think, with Solemn.
Yeah, I like those situations you just described where you know that because I have Solemn, I 100% win the game now. That is one of the best feelings in the world. But again, going back to Dimitri, he often talks about how people don't realize when Solemn lost you the game though. And I kind of challenged myself to start looking for it now. And when I was playing an EWCQ with Machina Control, I noticed it. Like I noticed situations where I was like, damn, Solemn is actually really bad for me, or it's a card that just like straight up kind of lost me the game because I wish it was something else in the situation that I'm in. Obviously, drawing it against an established field is terrible. Like there's just like any other trap, like Bottomless Trap Hole, I despise that card too. We'll probably do a whole episode on Bottomless or something, but Solemn has definitely had issues in the past. I don't think people recognize because we remember the good feeling of winning with it, the checkmate. That like you just described, like, oh, I know that this GB guy is going to do this, this, and this, and I know I'm going to do this, this, and this, and stop it and then win. But like when you lose with Solemn, a lot of people don't really accredit that to Solemn Judgment. They just kind of say like, oh, I lost because of some other reason. But it's like, what if Solemn was something else? Like, what if it was just a different card?
Yeah, I've been trying to think about that too, especially for
it's so noticeable with Gores. I just want to interject there.
It's definitely noticeable with Gores. That's why going second, I side out Solemn a lot because Gores is better going second, and then Solemn is worse going second. But also, I was going to say, people who don't like Solemn, sure, I 100% agree. It could definitely lose you the game because just paying half your life sucks. But you have to think, you can't just think like, oh, like Solemn sucked here because I paid half my life and lost. But like, what would you have replaced it with?
Yeah, so that is the question. But I think that we are at the spot now. The draw traps, I think, are fantastic because they kind of fulfill a very similar purpose. It's weird to say that because Solemn stops any card and they don't do that at all. But what I mean is that I really believe, without doing any kind of hardcore research or statistical analysis on this, the biggest use of Solemn Judgment is Heavy Storm. I really believe that.
Which is wrong.
Yeah, it is wrong. It is wrong that that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, you know for a fact that that's what people use it on the most. You play so many games where you go heavy and they go pay 4,000 and you're like, oh, this is great. Like, I'm sure you've played so many games where you're like Heavy Storm and they pay 4.
Yeah, that's probably not. Yeah. Sometimes you have to do that. Like I had to do that against you and just say you didn't have a specific combination of cards.
Oh yeah, you said 3 turn 1 in our game too at YCS Indy.
Yeah, and I said you had to have specifically heavy and Gores. So
yep. And I had heavy and Gores. Yeah.
Yep. But dude, like you said, when you use Heavy Storm and it's a 1-for-1 that also does 4,000 damage, that is unreal.
But the alternative was that if I didn't have those exact 2 cards, you killed me on turn 2. Like you literally. So and Solemn was part of the reason why that kill was guaranteed. If I did not have those exact 2 cards, like there in that specific scenario, Solemn was the card that protected you from anything happening besides a specific out that I had to have, right?
And I wouldn't say, like, in Dimitri's argument here, he would probably say something like, oh, you lost because you Solemned and paid 4,000, then he dropped Gores on you. And if I didn't have Solemn, I would have just set 1 back row probably and would have, like, been fine. But I don't think like that because you have to think like, oh, like, my probability of winning now is you specifically having those 2 cards.
Yeah, and I already don't play like that, and I try not to. I always think about my lose conditions, which is what you did, but I don't play for 1-ofs like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, well, that wraps up our time. So yeah, guys, I hope that you did enjoy this episode. Let me stop the timer. I hope that you guys did enjoy this episode on Solemn Judgment, and let us know your thoughts. How do you feel about Solemn? Have you tried taking it out of your deck yet? Have you tried playing with it if you were a guy who just wasn't playing with it? Like, what team are you on? You're on Team Dimitri, who staunchly believes that Solemn Judgment is not a good card. Or are you Team Eric, who believes that Solemn Judgment is one of the best cards and that if you're better than your opponent by a good margin, that it is actually an insane card that you should just be playing? What side are you on here? I'm neutral. I'm neutral in all this.
Yeah, I'm leaning toward more neutral, but I still think it's too good.
Oh, I like that. You're coming over to the other side. But yeah, guys, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.